Hello and welcome to the Crypto Club and Digital Assets weekly meetup on Zoom. It is Sunday, the 23rd of April, 2023, and we hold these sessions every Sunday evening, 7 p.m., 8 p.m. UK time. The meetings are open to novices and experts alike. Stick around, see what we're going to cover today. The actual conversation can vary completely. Some weeks it's about blockchain, crypto, DeFi, NFTs, ICOs, STOs, TGs, any other three-letter acronyms, and even some four-letter ones like DMCC, DTCC, and CBDC. If you're watching the recording of this and you enjoy it, do remember to click on the subscribe, the like, make comments, etc. But even more importantly, if you check in the link below, you'll see that there's the ability for you to actually register and come to a future event. Anyway, with that, let's see who's going to come and join us today. Hi, JT.
Hey, Gary.
And Ellie's here as well. Hi, Ellie.
Oh, hi, how are you?
Hey, we're good. How's Arizona?
It's getting warmer.
Well, we just had where I live thunderstorms coming over, so the dog's barking away at the moment.
It's getting to be 92 Fahrenheit.
I am jealous.
How cold is it over there?
It's above zero. It's not freezing. It's probably about 10 or 12 centigrade. I would guess at the moment, maybe a little more. It's just wet, so that's just the nature of it. So yeah,
we don't get the wetness either. We get the temperature without the wetness.
Yeah, that's why I love places like Arizona and Nevada. Although I've not been to Arizona, I used to love Nevada because that was hot and dry, which is perfect. And talking about wet and rain and everything, we've got Elena as well, who's joined us from probably the wettest place on the planet apart from the ocean. How's it going, Elena?
Island.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. Hello. We also had a nice day today and a lot of rain.
Yeah. As I always say to people, there's a reason why Ireland is green. So, folks, anything interesting happening in the world at the moment worth talking about? I know certainly crypto prices are all over the place. There's ongoing legal action still. I was at a legal conference in London on Thursday, listening to some lawyers talking about FTX, Celsius, Voyager, I think one or two other cases as well. And then there's a big CBDC conference on in London tomorrow as well. So lots of things going on. I don't know if you had anything else. JT, you've always got your finger on the pulse with what's going on.
Yes, that conference actually towards the end of the week, I might turn up there, There's one of the days seem to be quite good. It's 3 days, isn't it? If I'm not mistaken.
The one
is 3 days.
Okay, the one I'm going to is the one that's in London just for one day, which is tomorrow. But I'm sure that there are so you got consensuses on this week as well in Texas. That's 3 days, I think. I think that's 23rd, 24th to 26th.
There's one next week. Yes, this next week.
Okay.
It's city. I put the. Let me just put here on the
chat,
so you know.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I think it's 3 days. The lineup is quite impressive.
Okay.
I'm really impressed. So I might just turn up there. I was given a ticket, so I'd probably take my laptop and work a few hours there. But it's this one. I posted, yeah. Yeah, I think it's this week, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, it says 24th to 26th of April. So, yeah, that's tomorrow through to Wednesday.
It's tomorrow already. Oh, yeah. God.
Yeah. It's
Tuesday is the day that I want to go, second day.
Okay.
Yeah, the lineup is quite impressive, some of the speakers.
Well, even better. Why don't I share it here so we can actually see? So,
day one is climate change, but the second day, institutional adoption and regulation digital assets. I think that's probably quite good. If you look at the agenda, seems to be very interesting.
Yeah, and then day three around capital markets.
There's a Christine Johnson Commissioner, SCFTC. There is Scott Guthrie. He is the kind of the number 3 at Microsoft, which is quite interesting. And of course, there is people from Bloomberg running some of the panels. BNY Mellon, the chief risk officer, UBS Group Treasury. They're really impressive, some of the people attending,
Yeah.
And C-level, which is quite. I'm really impressed,
So here's the testing thing of how much. I'm just taking a look. 3-day package, £1,195. So £400 a day. Okay. Yeah. Looks interesting.
I'm only going to go because I was given a ticket. Otherwise, yeah, I understand.
Fair enough. Well, there is so much going on in this space, which is great, and it's where it's kind of handy. London seems to be quite a popular venue for some of the events. So that's cool. Okay, well, if you do go, you can pop along next week to our session, and you can tell us what they're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, there's a guy, the CEO of the Dubai Financial Service Authority attending. There's the head of policy of A16Z, Richard Muirhead is going to attend as well, and it's really impressive, so a lot of the speakers, I know who they are. And there's Swiss National Bank Director and Head of Banking Operations, Head of Digital Policy at Barclays. All the guys are really dealing with all the digital assets, and the third day is about CBDCs, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not interested on that, but yes, I will do that.
Okay.
If I go, I don't know yet, okay, because there's so much going on.
Like say tomorrow at Canary Wharf, there's a 1-day conference which is around CBDCs, and they've got people from, if I remember correctly, the Bank of England, and a number of other organisations talking about CBDC adoption around the world, not just the UK. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes, because there's a kind of crossover between CBDCs and cryptocurrencies and assets and that kind of thing. So interesting. Oh, well, thanks for sharing that, JC. And,
I think this week, what I seen this week, I think the most important thing was really MiCA that was approved. It comes into law in July. So MiCA is the European, the EU regulation for digital assets, for people who don't know what it is. And I think the three core things is, there's a few more, but, a very strong regulation on stables, really strong, which, we need anyway. Very strong regulation on exchanges, and they have to be totally split from custodians.
Okay.
Yeah, so they have to run separate companies, separate boards, everything's and really properly audited, So very, very strong regulations on that, which is great, I think that's what majority of people would expect anyway. And then no regulation on DeFi. Yeah. They're going to pick up on that in a couple of years. So many people are saying already this summer is going to be, again, a DeFi summer, That's what people are saying. I doubt it, but who knows, yeah? NFTs, they're not going to be regulated, for the simple reason they are NFTs. So they are, of course, if you tokenize something, then yes, it becomes, it doesn't even apply to MiCA, applies to the actual existing security laws, that there is in the European Union. And then one more thing I think it's worth highlighting is any project, any company can launch a token, which is fantastic news, really, really good news. Has to be a utility token. If it is, there's some really strong regulations about that. As long as you have already an MVP, you have a white paper. You don't need to publish white paper, but you need to have it, and there's a few things that you have to. It's a process,
Okay.
And this is really great news because they are not saying that tokens are all like the US SEC. They're all securities. They're not. That's not what they are saying at all. Okay. As long as the token has a function on the platform, access to the platform, blah blah blah, all of those things, and the company has an MVP, I think those are the core things, and of course a white paper could be internal, doesn't have to be published. Then you can launch a token,
Okay.
And also, you can also launch a token if you don't have an MVP, but the regulation and the things you have to do in terms of marketing, et cetera, is quite strong. It's just to avoid, a lot of the stuff that has happened in 2021 and 2020, a lot of fake stuff, on the ICOs as well. You know what I'm talking about, yeah? So it's quite impressive, I think that this is going to set the standard for many countries, in my opinion.
Well, I think that's good. And hopefully if it's not too overbearing, then it actually helps the whole marketplace to mature a little bit. And that then attracts more people into it, which is fantastic. And
I have a link that I'm going to post here that I was reading on Thursday or Friday, can't remember, which is a good overview, for anyone that wants to understand a bit more. Let me just post it. Yeah,
because I've seen so many posts this week about Micah coming through and all sorts of people saying, it's just that I just haven't had a chance to decide which ones I'm going to read. So
this one here, I find it quite. Oh my God, it's these URLs. Okay,
it's okay. I've got it. Let me again. We'll share it so everyone can see. So that was actually published in December, and I guess the regulation hasn't really changed, has it?
No, pretty much not. I mean, it's pretty much the same. Might be small detail here or there, but this is the one that I found that really explains quite well. Yeah.
Okay, and as you say, whilst this legislation it was recently voted to be approved, it won't actually take effect for a few more months yet, will it?
In July.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's 18 months period, for companies to adapt, of course, usual stuff.
Okay.
But it becomes effective, the law, in July.
Okay. So the way that they've split out the three categories of asset reference
it's
tokens.
Interesting, yeah.
Well, that's quite similar, but slightly different, as is always the case with regulation, with what the UK did with that they've defined crypto assets in various ways, and Swiss with FINMA that did the same, and I think BaFin, the German banking regulator, did as well. That ultimately you've got things that point to assets. So as you say, it's something that may be regulated already, or it might be things like property or gold or anything else. But they've included stable coins in there, which is curious. Then they've got e-money tokens. So represents a money. So I guess that's where Bitcoin and Ethereum. But that's kind of curious, isn't it?
This includes a stablecoin backed by a single fiat currency as well, for example. Yeah.
But it's interesting that they're including elements of stable coins as both asset reference tokens and as e-money tokens. So,
the first one, I think it makes sense because the first category, it has to be two or more, backed by two or more fiat currencies, which majority are, Okay. So this is when it's a direct one-to-one.
Because that does differ from the UK then. So the UK would consider anything which is referencing something else to be a derivative. And so the UK's argued that crypto derivatives are dealt with in a separate way. And in the UK, you can't sell them to consumer markets, only to retail and that kind of thing. So, but certainly it's worthwhile reading it further at some point, definitely. Curious then. All right, thanks for sharing.
I find it quite interesting, this summary. But there are others, like you said, So that's the most important thing, I think, this week. But as you can see, I think we discussed this before. It didn't move the markets in the direction many people were expecting, because this is, if you look from the impact this has in crypto globally, it's enormous. It's absolutely huge impact because it's proper framework with proper legislation that was created that has 27 countries in Europe that are going to adopt this. This is massive for crypto. And of course, the markets, the timing and everything, the markets went in different direction, which brings to the conversation we had. It's are the markets being manipulated? It's all about the shorts and the longs.
Well, this is where I've just put up the Bitcoin to USDT rate via Binance, just by way of demonstration. And you can see that over the last few weeks, Bitcoin's been building up quite nicely since beginning of March, really. And then it settled, I think it was last week, on 31,000. And then kind of like fell off a cliff over the last few days. You could argue that is related to the micro announcements, or it could be something completely different. I really don't know. I mean, when did that start falling away?
There was 200, just put it in context, there was about, on the way up, there was about almost 1 billion of liquidations of shorts, yeah?
Okay.
And, around about 18, 19, when the European Parliament was discussing and they was going to vote, that's when a lot of people were expecting this is going to be massive. It's already, the feedback is going to be approved,
Okay.
So in any normal situation, the market will love this and it will just kick off, big time. Yeah. But if you see the graph at that time, it went in a totally opposite direction.
Exactly. I mean, this very large and noticeable red candle was on the morning of the 19th.
And do you know what happened?
Go on.
Happened there? It was someone who dropped a big bag in Binance. Exchange.
Okay.
So the really big bag, and it has been confirmed. You can actually find news about that. And of course, whoever drops that big bag and shorts, is going to benefit a lot. Just on that day, in 24 hours, over 240 million liquidation of longs.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a game, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
So,
well, you can see. I mean, it went down from $30,086 down immediately to like $29,400. So what's that, about $800 or more? And then carried on dropping down to $29,100. So a total drop of around about $1,000 with big volumes as well, as you were saying.
Yeah, it was a big bag. Somebody who dropped it. Of course, there's people buying while it goes down. Yeah, it's normal because there's buying order as always,
Yep. Yeah.
So it's interesting because, with such big news for crypto, in any normal market conditions, it would go totally the opposite way.
Yep.
So I think, in my opinion, and I said it several times, I do really believe the markets are being manipulated, at the moment.
Well,
it is what it is.
Less of at the moment. The markets have always been manipulated. That is just the nature of it, realistically. And this is where I find it funny, where people are saying, "Oh, well, it's completely different to traditional markets." It's like you can see that there's weird behavior going on all the time. I'm just trying to find. Here we go, on the 19th, 9 a.m. Yeah, within was this a 5 minute, 3 minutes? The price fell off a cliff, 30,029 down to, well, it actually dropped as low as 29.3 at one point. So $700 in 3 minutes. So
and that's not 1 million or 2 million, or not 10 million, and not 50 million. That's a lot of money to drop that much.
Absolutely. You look at like the volumes now, quite sizable. So interesting stuff. It's probably one of those few occasions as well that you can sometimes see a connection between a real world event and a change in crypto prices. But most of the time, I get annoyed when I read the press that says, oh, well, we can see that crypto responded to this news by blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, we can't. That's just someone who's playing the market in some way. So interesting. I was going to ask you, Ellie, anything interesting happening in the States at the moment? So you watching things?
Actually, I'm not. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. I remember that there was a lot of regulation stuff that was going to happen on Tuesday. That was mentioned in the last meeting.
What was that?
Any updates on that?
What was it specifically? Can you remember?
No.
No.
I thought there was a big regulatory meeting going on with the government here, but I haven't followed.
Yeah. Gary Gensler from the SEC being absolutely grilled in the Senate.
And he didn't answer if Ethereum was a security or not, which is laughable, you know. Yeah. I think his days are counted, you know, in my opinion.
Yeah. So the one key thing that came out from it is that one of the senators is proposing regulation to sack Gary Gensler from his role as chief of the SEC, which I find profound. Why on earth do you need legislation to dismiss somebody? But I saw some very tough questioning going on, and Mr. Gensler was very avoiding in the answers he gave. But I don't think it reached a final outcome. But certainly the general sentiment for those who don't know about this inquiry or whatever it was called, it was to explore the SEC's attitude to regulation of the crypto market. And generally the broad theme was that Senate seems to think that the SEC has been overstepping the mark and has been applying rules that don't really necessarily exist, I think might be a fair way of describing it, or being very, very, very harsh. And the senators are kind of saying, well, look, it's our job to create legislation. It's your job to manage it through regulation and make sure it's done. It's not your job to create regulation. You know, so it's kind of interesting. And he had quite a hard time. There's lots of stuff on Twitter of extracts of the interview, and I'm sure there's loads of YouTube stuff on it as well. And it is a great example of how to avoid answering questions, even some simple stuff, as JT said. Like I think Gary was at one point asked, you know, is Ethereum a security under the definition? And from what I recall of the extract I saw, he kind of wormed his way around not actually quite answering the question. So, but yeah, it was interesting. I don't know, JT, did you listen to any of the questioning at all?
Yeah, I was listening and I was laughing because he was dodging pretty much every single question, you know. He was not very clear, and there's at some point when one of the guys, senator, I can't remember his name, he said it was under your watch, yeah, that, you know, all of this stuff has happened, you know, FTX collapsed, you know, Terra Luna collapsed, Celsius collapsed, you know. I mean, the guy was just going through all, and it was like billions and billions of dollars whilst Gensler was the head of the SEC. I mean, it's just, I think they were kind of trying to push the guy to start to make decisions, but I think it's probably too late. I don't think the guy's going to stay long, you know, because he can't even answer questions directly, you know.
Yeah,
I mean, it was a question I was like, if you can comment about Bitcoin and you say it's not a security, certainly you can say if Ethereum is security or not. You already commented on one of them, and the guy didn't come up with any answer. It's weird, very weird.
I'm just trying to find some stuff on Twitter at the moment, but it's one of those things that there was so many interesting points about it. I didn't bookmark anything, but definitely if you go and take a look, even just on Google, it's probably as good a place as any. Yeah, let's see if I can. I've just got a video, which I think is an extract. Let's just share that and see if it's got any interesting stuff on it. So bear with me.
Thank you, Chair Gensler. I'll now recognize myself for 5 minutes. Ether is one of the most popular digital assets and powers the Ethereum blockchain. Back in 2018, then SEC Corporation Finance Director Bill Hinman stated that he believed Ether was not a security. Last month, CFTC Chair Benham expressed his view that Ether is a commodity. The State Attorney General of New York asserted in a court filing last month that Ether is a security. Clearly, an asset cannot be both a commodity and a security. Do you agree?
Actually, all securities are commodity under the Commodity and Exchange Act. It's that we are excluded commodities. But I would agree that a security cannot be also an excluded commodity and an included commodity. I'm sorry, Chair, just to talk about the Commodity Exchange Act more precisely.
Okay, so do you recognize, how would you categorize Ether then?
Look, I think that the general sweep of what Congress did, not just in the 30s, but as amended.
I'm asking you, sitting in your chair now, to make an assessment under the laws as exist. Is Ether a commodity or a security?
Without speaking to any one.
I know you've repeatedly said that you're not going to speak to one, except you've spoken to one, Bitcoin. So I'm asking you to speak to a second one, the second largest market cap here.
And speaking to the tokens, there's 10 to 12,000. If there's a group of entrepreneurs in the
asking about one.
The public is anticipating a profit based on the.
I'm asking you a specific question, Chair Gensler. I said this in private. This should be no shock to you. I'm asking this question. Is Ether a commodity or a security?
And again, it depends on the facts and the law. And if there's a group of individuals.
I'm asking about the facts and the law sitting in your seat and the judgment you are making.
And so, Mr. Chair, I think you would not want me to prejudge because I'm also.
But you have prejudged on this. You've taken 50 enforcement actions. We're finding out as we go, as you file.
Yeah,
we'll stop it there because I think it just continues in that kind of vein that he gives some quite evasive responses, I guess. So.
Yeah, indeed. It was a bit of a clown show, to be honest. You know.
Well, it's a good example of how people can be trained and developed into how to not answer questions without anyone noticing that you've not answered questions. You know, it's like there's the old joke about politicians that they're trained that when a journalist asks them a question that they don't want to answer, what they say is, that's a very good question, but the more important question consider is, and they actually divert it type thing. So he was doing a little bit of that. So there you go, Ali. That's the kind of the update of last Tuesday, wherever it was.
But so the market dropped on both Ethereum and Bitcoin, I think, on Wednesday. So I thought it had to do with that. But I guess there's more to it.
Well, this is where, again, I think we can never, sorry, not never, but it's very difficult generally to show an absolute connection between a real world event and a crypto price change. With the notable exception that any time
FTX, Terra, and Luna.
Well, I was going to say, with the exception of things like if Elon Musk tweets something about Doge or Shiba Inu, where there clearly is, he says something and minutes later it all goes crazy, and where people start saying things, as JT says, about certain other tokens like Terra, of something's just happened, blah blah blah. For things like Bitcoin and Ethereum, it's generally harder to be able to say this particular event here led to that spike or drop. So that sudden drop I showed was on the 19th at 9 a.m. I don't know what time the SEC meeting was, but I suspect it was probably later.
Oh, okay.
Simply time zone wise, that if the drop was at 9 a.m. UK time and East Coast, if that was Washington, I guess they're 6 hours behind, so it won't have been at the same time. It is the only thing. The one other thing that I have seen where there has been a correlation between a real world event and crypto was when was it about a month ago? The FBI announced with the US Treasury that they were about to make a major announcement about a criminal crypto activity.
Announcement of announcement.
That's right. And it was exactly as JC says, that they announced at some like 3 p.m. UK time that they would be announcing at 5 p.m. a major event that happened in crypto, for which they were prosecuting people. And so for the next hour or so, I think everyone thought they were about to announce something like CZ from Binance was about to be arrested or something, because the FBI were emphasizing this was a really major crypto-related activity. And it was kind of curious because 90 minutes later, so before the announcement still, 90 minutes later, the crypto market actually went in the opposite direction of what you would have thought would happen. I can't remember if it suddenly shot up or it shot down. There was some weird action. And then 30 minutes later, the announcement was made by the FBI that this major crypto activity that everyone was thinking, oh, you know, this is Coinbase or Binance or Kraken, you know, because it's a major thing, was actually the arrest of the CEO from a company called Bitslato, I think it was, who were a relatively minor exchange used for dark web activities. So not good people in theory, but compared to, you know, the likes of Binance and Kraken and Coinbase, nothing significant really. And I know it was the FBI were announcing the arrest of the CEO in, I think it was Miami, in collaboration with something that they'd done in Germany with one of the other agencies. And that they made a massive deal about interagency cooperation and all that good stuff. But everyone up to that point had thought it was related to a major exchange being taken down. And so the prices have gone crazy. So that was one of the few occasions where you could be pretty confident that that announcement had had that impact. And the weird thing, and I think I wrote about this on LinkedIn, that the weird thing was the fact that the price correction, when it all started going back to normal, was 20 to 30 minutes before the announcement was made, which makes me think that someone had found out what the announcement was about to be. So,
and it was actually people made a joke out of it. Do you remember?
Yeah.
When you go to Starbucks, ask for a bit latte. Do you remember that one? Because nobody knew what that exchange was, to be honest. You know. So.
Well, in fact, I did a poll on LinkedIn to say, you know, has anyone actually ever heard of Bitslato? And I think it was something like 97%, which is always a suspicious number anyway. It's either 96 or 97% of the people who responded said no, never heard of it. So it did feel as though it was a bit of market manipulation going on by making this big announcement that it was a major crypto thing. And in actual fact, the arrest wasn't particularly because of the crypto side of things. It was because the guy was dealing in dark web activities. So, you know, illegal
drugs, all of that stuff, you know.
Yeah. So in a way, it wasn't really a crypto arrest. It was a normal criminal activity arrest. It's just that they tarnished it as being crypto related. Anyway.
Right. Well, thank you for clarifying and sharing all that.
Hey, no problem. Quite a long-winded answer to the short question of what were you going to tell us about last Tuesday. So that was good. Elena,
another important thing I think to mention this week, Gary, was the Voyager. Voyagers made a deal with the Feds to sell the $1 billion of assets to Binance US, because that was stopped like in March, you know. Okay. But finally the Feds, actually the judge said, no, you can't stop this, you know. So the Feds made an agreement, and the deal was given the go-ahead. So Binance is going to acquire $1 billion of the assets of Voyager.
Okay, I didn't know about that. So that's a good one to know. Yeah. Thanks. And
let me put the link here as well.
Okay. Because certainly I was at a conference that was sponsored by a legal firm in London on Thursday, where they actually had a set of panelists who were litigators, crypto assets, tracing people, and a couple of others, where they were talking about Voyager, FTX, Celsius, and possibly one other activity that had been going on. Because it was fascinating that they all seemed to be of like minds, that they were bemused that FTX seemed to be going through a bankruptcy proceedings when it should actually be going through criminal proceedings or something. But yeah, fascinating stuff. Okay.
Yeah, I put a cleaned up URL as well. So yes, that's quite interesting, because of all the problems that they tried to make on Binance, and Binance US and so on, and then I think the judge went ahead, no, this is ridiculous because you're just damaging, the retail, the users,
Okay.
So very, very interesting. I wonder what's going to be the impact on all of these witch hunt that they are having in US, to be honest,
It's a sad thing, isn't it? You got the mixture of a whole load of litigation and actions going on against companies, and then you've got the whole regulatory domain of, you've still got the US regulators fighting over who's going to regulate crypto ultimately. JT, thanks for sharing that URL, which doesn't actually work.
I know.
Maybe you've over concatenated it or something.
Probably. I'll post it the full URL and then.
Yeah, okay, that probably works best. We'll pop that up as well, because it just makes it easier for everyone who's on the call to see it, and it saves me having to link it when I do the YouTube of this later on as well. So we've got, bankrupt crypto lender Voyager, seals deal, billion. So what does it actually say? So is it in effect that Binance are acquiring the assets then?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. They wanted to acquire before they made the proposal. In March, the deal was about to go ahead, and then the US government, I think it was in New York, they actually tried to stop it. They stopped it, actually, and then the judge apparently said, no, you can't do that.
Okay.
And we moved forward. I don't know the full details, obviously, I just saw these headlines and I thought it was worth to mention.
Yeah, well, again, thanks for sharing the link, and people can go and check it out separately. That's great. Okay. As always, the time is flying at the moment, so I was just going to quickly ask Elena, because she's always brilliant at listening astutely and then asking some really good stuff. Anything that has stirred your interest, or that you've come along tonight thinking, I need to ask Gary, because I heard this on my Intro to Digital Currencies course, and I wanted to.
I'm still thinking about that video on Twitter, whether Ethereum is a utility or a commodity.
Yeah, it's worth checking out, because that was I think that was actually the Senate chairman asking the question, and I love some of the US Senate hearings, and that they're much more lively, shall we say, than the British equivalent in Parliament, because some of the senators are very switched on indeed, and are very good at questioning difficult candidates. So it's strange, isn't it? When one of your hobbies is to watch US Senate inquiries, because they provide more entertainment than a TV show.
But also what a great skill it is to have, to be able to answer a question without answering.
Yeah. The trick, as I always say, is to not answer the question without people realizing you've not answered it. That's definitely a clever one. So I'll be good on. Okay, right. Go on.
No, I do have a question. The second link that JT showed us today, the MiCA regulation overview, and it within the article, it contained a classification of crypto assets. So there were e-money tokens, utility tokens, and something else, and that got me thinking. where in this classification do the work of art tokens belong? For example, a CryptoPunk NFT is a significant crypto asset, isn't it?
Yep.
So what can we, how can we define it?
I'll quickly offer my understanding, having previously read some of this stuff, but occasionally I get this specific regulation mixed up, is that is classed as a crypto token of something else, which clearly it is, as opposed to it being the token itself. So for that, I think that features as number one in that list of the three things, that it's a token that points to an asset of value in some way.
Okay.
Is my understanding. It's all slightly different. The UK and
not the EU. That's not the EU view. Yeah. So the EU view is the NFTs don't fall into any of those categories. Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. So NFTs, they're not going to legislate because NFTs is just a non-fungible token. That's what they say. You know. So of course, if there is tokenization or whatever it is, it doesn't matter if there is an asset behind. It doesn't matter if it's a ticket of some kind or a membership for something. And it doesn't really matter as long if you tokenize it. Yeah. Let's say you create a collection of 10,000 NFTs. They all look the same. Yeah. That falls into the existing laws of the EU. So just pure NFTs that don't have anything attached, like it's an image, I don't know, a board ape, a punk, there is nothing, it's just a pure image with a token, it does not fall into anything. And they were quite clear about that. So they're not legislating DeFi, and there's not going to be no legislation for NFTs. DeFi, they'll pick up in about 2 years' time. That's what they said.
And in fact, I just popped up that article that you provided earlier on, rereading it, the three definitions that they've got here. The asset reference token is pretty much a stable coin, isn't it? I reread now that it's about anything that purports to be stabilized. And they do specifically say down at the bottom here, which probably answers Elena's point, that NFTs are largely excluded from MiCA, except where the ownership is fractionalized, which puts them...
Tokenization, so fractionalizing it,
Yeah, and in fact, once you start doing things like fractionalization of things, it probably falls within existing derivatives regulations.
Security laws, pure securities. There's nothing to legislate. That's what they said, basically.
Yeah, because the thing I found weird when the UK put in place some regulations is that even though Bitcoin is not a regulated financial instrument, if you create a token that references Bitcoin, so say you've got a pool token in some way that includes a bit of Bitcoin, a bit of something else, then that token is regulated because that's a derivative. And it was kind of, how on earth can you have something that is regulated because it's a derivative of something that isn't regulated? Kind of blew my head a little bit, but that's the way the regulation works. So to come back to your point, Elena, NFTs aren't covered.
Now it's clear.
That's
the senior group. And JT, again, thanks for clarifying some of that.
Talking about NFTs, they're totally crashing the last 2-3 days. Massive, So I think the floor price of a ape now is like 50 Ethereum, So totally crashing.
So there was a court case about Bored Apes the other day, wasn't there? And about, in fact, if I pull it up here, this is the handy thing about just sharing stuff. It's far easier. That there was a case around the copyright of Bored Apes, and Yuga Labs, who I think were the ones who created Bored Apes, managed to declare ownership around the IP of them. So yeah, they've won the case against copycats of Bored Ape digital collectibles. So obviously some people have taken a Bored Ape Yacht Club image and they've copied it and they've said it's their own, and court action's gone through and Yuga Labs have won the action on that. But you're saying that JC, you're saying that the NFT price market is dropping somewhat at the moment.
Yeah, all NFT is really dropping badly, I don't know what spook people, but, I think it's the overall market going down and people trying to sell. There's too much offer. Yeah, there's not enough buyers, of course, then the floor price goes lower,
Okay. Yeah. Again,
interesting what you said about that case, because I've been telling people, NFTs, they're worth nothing. I can just go and copy the image, and I keep telling people you're breaching copyright laws. There's somebody who owns something. You can't just go and copy, and use it somewhere else. You can use it at home on your desktop without nobody knowing. True, you can.
So there is a further extension of that which hasn't been explored yet, and that is around the whole space around intellectual property of assets that haven't been created by human beings. So this is where again your head kind of starts going, what? So people are using AI more and more, whether it's DALL-E or I can't remember some of the other tools now, to create digital art. And one of the regulations around IP, if I understand correctly, and this is not legal advice, blah, 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 is that IP can only be held by a legal entity, which is typically a human being.
Oh.
The legal entities normally are either registered legal entities, so they are companies, or people. And IP can only be owned by a person. So you can't create something if you're not a person. Which brings into the question then of, if AI creates something, it creates a unique picture, then
depends.
You can't have IP on it.
No. Depends. There's something else to explore. Do you know why? Because before this AI creates something, you need to give instructions. You need to say, I want something with all these characteristics. But it's going to be interesting to watch this. I'm not saying, I just think there is a few angles there. Until we get there, it's going to be complicated. So I agree with you.
I agree, because the fascinating thing, and this is where it comes back to not Bored Ape Yacht Club, but to actually your previous crypto thing, which was Crypto Kitties, and the whole thing where if you bought 2 tokens, you could effectively breed them, and they generate another token. So you'd have a kitten and another kitten, and you put them together, and you'd end up with little kittens. Well, if you now end up in a situation where you've got AI taking something that was generated from AI and creates something else with AI, there's clearly no human intervention, and so you can't really claim IP around it, I believe. And obviously jurisdictions may vary. And again, as I say, this is not legal advice or anything definite. So an interesting space. And Ellie, I saw you smiling at a few of the things on that.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Where are we going?
Yeah, it just ties in with my whole belief that everyone was saying originally that because of blockchain and smart contracts, lawyers were going to go out of business. I think it's actually the opposite. I think it just creates even more opportunities for them.
For ChatGPT.
Or Bard or any other LLM or GPT-based thing, yep. So the simple solution is just go and check ChatGPT about what it thinks about what's illegal and that. And one of the things it does say is, I am not qualified to give legal advice.
Oh.
It does actually say that. If you ask ChatGPT and you express it, something like write a legal contract, because I've done this in the insurance sector, where I've actually got ChatGPT to write a specimen insurance contract, and it does say I cannot give you legal advice on this, please check, blah, blah, blah. So it kind of worms its way out of it with that. So quite a range.
You can use on ChatGPT, you can use different prompts, yeah?
Yeah.
You know what a prompt is, yeah?
Yeah. And it's going to be interesting to see what the next versions of AI I could do around that as well. Sorry, JT, you're going to say. Yeah. And it's fascinating as well because everyone's saying about how it's evolving so fast and it's suddenly appeared and this kind of thing. And actually, it hasn't. I don't know if people on the call know the origins of artificial intelligence, but the first kind of use of the term was at the Dartmouth conference in the USA in, I think it was 1954. So AI, as such, has been around for nearly 70 years. But it's only in the last 12 months or so with things like ChatGPT and DALL-E and Synesthesia and a couple of others that people are suddenly noticing it. But anyone who understands that what's known as the lily pad effect of exponential growth will understand this. If you think about a pond which has got a lily in it, you don't kind of notice the lily, and then there's 2 lilies, and then the next day there's 4 lilies, then there's 8 lilies, then 6. So it keeps doubling every day. You don't notice until 3 days before the pool is completely covered with lilies that the lilies growing so rapidly. And that's the whole thing. If you look at the mathematics of exponential growth, you don't notice until it's almost over, which is fascinating. So ChatGPT, I think the sign-up rate on that was something like that. They got, I think it was 5 million subscribers in a few days, which compared to anything previously is just phenomenal. Very quickly. Sorry, I'm rambling on a bit there. Quickly before we finish, any questions, any comments, anything, just to make sure I haven't missed anything?
Do you think it's almost all over for, we just noticed AI and it's been around, well, the notion has been around for such a long time. We just noticed it. Do you think it's almost over?
There is that fear. You've got a thing called singularity, which is where technology overtakes the abilities of human beings. And it might be that we've just noticed that it's about to happen. The reports I've read reckon that the version of GPT, so GPT is generative pre-transformation, I think it is. So I've forgotten what the exact place is. But basically, it's massive modeling of masses of data to come up with potential answers. And when you look at ChatGPT in its current guise, I think it's got some like, is it 300 and something billion possible combinations? But when you actually scale it to the level of a human brain, they reckon at the rate that GPT is being developed at the moment, it would be somewhere between 2030 and 2035 before it'll have the power equivalent of a human brain. What I didn't realize is that when people were saying 2035, I've got a feeling that they're not talking about the year, but the time of day. So it's going to happen in about 35 minutes. So just joking on that. But yeah, it may be the things are moving very quickly, which is why I think over 1,000 signatories, there's been 1,000 signatories to a request to slow down AI, including Elon Musk, which is interesting because he's one of the original founders of OpenAI.
He had a big 2-day interview on the TV on Fox last week. I watched part of it. And he's very concerned.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Just watch out. Just my last thing I want to tell to everyone on this call. Just be careful. There's lots of projects appearing at the moment with Chat GPT Crypto or GPT Crypto, whatever.
Yep.
You know, just be very careful because they have no substance whatsoever. Every single one that I've seen so far, I guess you know what's going to happen with those projects. So be extremely careful. You know, my advice: do extra due diligence.
Do your own research and don't use ChatGPT for it. That's a good finishing thing, folks. I'm conscious we're out of time. We've gone through an hour on this pretty much. So thank you very much for coming along today. Hope it was
Thank
worth
you.
you all. Hope it was worth you all joining, and thanks for the questions and the answers as well. So have a great day, everyone. And if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, like, that kind of stuff.